So again, good morning, everyone. My name is Fabian Villasenor. I'm a customer success manager with SkyBitz, and on behalf of myself and the entire SkyBitz team, we want to welcome you to SmartTank Training Thursdays. This week's topic is viewing tank data. So this is part 2 of 2. Thank you all for attending. We hope this 1-hour session will boost your level of knowledge within SmartTank and help you utilize our world-class user interface to its fullest capability. The intent of the trainings is to provide a live demonstration of available SmartTank tools and features. And just a few housekeeping items before we dive in. We have muted all participant lines to reduce any background noise. If you have muted yourself and want to ask a question later, you'll need to unmute yourself, as we're not able to do that for you. Also, we have a lot of time at the end of the training for questions and answers. And you may also type in the question in the chat as the session progresses. All of the sessions are being recorded, and they will be available for playback via SkyBitz YouTube channel. If you haven't already, please visit our YouTube channel and subscribe. Our training sessions will be available for playback, and you'll find much more information pertaining to your business needs. The areas that I'm covering this week are how to add columns and filters in preparation of creating your TankView profiles, creating and applying those TankView profiles, and then managing the TankView profiles. So we did cover some of the filter and options in the last session, but I think it will be useful to cover that briefly. So I'll go ahead and get started by sharing my screen here, and we're on smarttank.com. So upon login, you'll arrive at this home landing page, but we'll be mostly working from the tanks list page. So if you'll just go here into tanks, this will provide a list of your tanks in a format where you're able to make modifications to the grid here. All right, so here I already do have a TankView profile that has been applied, and what I want to show is just start off by some of the filters and options that we talked about last week. So if you click on the filters button, if you didn't attend last week's session, here's where you can list what you want to see on the grid. So right now I have a organization that has child organizations. So the parent organization is called SmartTank Demo Partner View, and then these are child organizations that are underneath this parent organization. And so the filters that you can apply here, you can apply an organization if you only want to see one or a few and not all. You can also apply filters based on locations. So I can select all of these locations that I want filtered. So those that I click on will filter those locations. So for example, if I click on Black Creek Lake, let me take this filter off here. And you can add or remove a filter by clicking on it once. So I just filtered Black Creek Lake, so I can continue to add more locations by clicking on each one. So those that are not selected are not included in the filter that I'm going to be using to apply on the TankView profile. You can do the same with the organizations, as I had demonstrated earlier. And if you want to clear the filters, the easiest way is just to go here and click those filters out. And I won't spend too much time here, but I just wanted to quickly demonstrate the filters. And again, I'll go ahead and do the test organization, which is primarily where we're going to be working out of today. So again, I just click once. And so these are all the tanks that are under my organization named SmartTank Test. And again, with those filters that you can apply to the tank view profiles, we can also organize the columns that we want to see. And in order to do that, we would go into the options button, and here you can select the columns that you want to see when you log in. So the lists on the left here under selected columns, these are the columns that I have selected to see down here at the bottom on my grid. Starting from the top to the bottom, volume status, that's the first column, and then the state is the last column, which you can see here on the right. Now I'm just going to demonstrate quickly just adding an available column from the right to the left. You can just click and drag that over. You can place that wherever in whatever order you want to see it. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the top here. And you'll see that that's been added to the left of my grid. So now that we've selected filters and options, we're going to go into the TVP setup button. Okay, and so since I did make a change to the existing profile, the existing tank view profile that I had, you'll see that we have this word that says modified in red. So this lets us know that there was a change that was made to the existing tank view profile. However, that is not a saved change. So in order for us to save that change, there's a couple of options we can do. One that I want to show first is in creating a new tank view profile. So just starting off from the base of the existing tank view profile, and that tank view profile that currently exists is called SmartTank TVP test. What I'll do just to save that modification is I can create an entirely new name. So we'll call this one SmartTank TVP test 2. And you'll go ahead and click on the Save As button. You'll get this little pop-up that wants to know if you're sure. Just go ahead and click OK. And then the next step that I want to do is click on this Select a Profile box and look for the profile that I just created, SmartTank TVP Test 2. Click OK. And then I'll go ahead and click on this Apply button. Hit OK, I'm sure. And this will just take a few moments here. All right, so that change has now been applied, and now I have the ability, oh, this is still thinking, we'll just give it another minute. All right, so now I have the ability to switch between profiles that I've created. Obviously, that was just a very small change, but you can add all types of options and filters, based on whatever makes sense for you. So you can organize these. If you have a customer that has a lot of tanks and you want to just be able to focus on that one customer. If that customer is set up as a location on SmartTank.com, you'll select that customer from the locations list. Or if you have that customer set up as a child organization, then you'll select that filter under the organization. So what this allows us to do is to be able to go back and forth. So I can click back to my original filter, and again, after selecting that filter, you want to go ahead and apply it. Okay, so now I have returned to the original tank view profile that I started off with. And If you don't have a tank view profile alredeady created, when you first click on the TVP button and you click on the profile, you should be defaulted to a profile. So it will likely read something like this, like default as admin user. So you can start off from there, make any changes, and then once you see that modified word up here, you can go ahead and start by typing in a name to create a profile and save it. Now, if I have an existing tank view profile that I want to modify without changing the name, we would again just go into the options. Again, add a column, for example, or it can, you can change the filters as well. And you can either click on the save button from here, or we can go back to the TVP setup, and you'll see that that profile name exists in this box. And then we'll click on save here. So I know this can be a little confusing. Generally, I think the best way to kind of differentiate between these two sections is if you're using the Save As button, you're generally creating a new tank view profile. And if you're just modifying an existing tank view profile, you're using the Save button. And if you wanted to undo the tank view profile, you can always click on Restore Default, and your grid will restore to whatever the default was. I just wanted to point out a couple of other areas. So this first box here should be available to all users. You're able to create your own tank view profiles that you can select from. And they will only be visible to yourself or whoever created them. And if you're an administrator and you have the permissions to manage tank view profiles, you will also have this second box here at the bottom. So what this second box allows you to do is to manage the tank view profiles for other users. So here, for example, I mentioned that I have a parent organization with child organizations. So I can select between that parent organization and different child organizations, and I can decide whether I want to make this tank view profile private or public. Public means that everyone throughout the organization will be able to see that tank view profile, but they will not be able to make any modifications to it. Then once I select an organization, for example, if I go into SmartTank test organization, well, let me try this again. I believe it was at the parent organization here. Then I can select the user that I want to apply this tank view profile for. And if you do have an organization structure where you have a parent and child organizations, you can select whether you want this applicable to the entire organization as well. So once we have this tank view profile set up, you also have an option to make this into a universal tank view profile by checking this box. What universal tank view profile means is that you'll be able to apply it to another user without them having to recreate it. So this function is only available on the new tanks list. Some users may be working off the original tanks list, but that old tanks list does not have this functionality. So as I said, the UTVP, or Universal Tank View Profile, is a feature that provides the users the ability to use their profiles across all organizations and sub-organizations for which they have permissions. So applying the UTVP renders options such as the columns, primary, secondary sort, page size, but will not apply any changes to the filters or exclude any tanks. And it does allow administrators to create private universal TVPs for new users. As with the TVPs, the user does have the option to create an organization-specific private TVP that will persist any changes made to the profile. So the universal tank view profile will organize any changes that you made under options, but not filters. Filters are only saved for each user's private TVP profiles. So I also wanted to demonstrate how you can apply a universal tank view profile to another user. So if you do have admin privileges, you're able to go into users here. And I have a user created that is only has web access. So as web user, I'll go into their profile. And on the bottom right-hand side, you'll see that there's a default universal TVP dropdown. And here, I'll be able to select from any TVP that I want to apply for that individual. So this saves some time from having every new user having to create that grid. If you go ahead and make a selection here, such as this universal TVP, and click on update user details, then when that user logs in, that user will see the grid exactly as you laid it out. And so I want to go ahead and demonstrate that. So I'm going to log in as that web user. And again, we're going to go into tanks. And so they have the columns in the order that I had established in the universal TVP. And they also, as I mentioned, will be able to create their own tank view profiles, if they want to just build off of that universal tank view profile. So we'll go and log back into the admin here. And so some of the useful tank view profile filters are you can select, for example, tanks that are in alarm status. So you can elect to just be able to focus in on any tanks that are in critical low and low alarm status and apply that as a filter. Maybe that's called low alarms or low alarms. So if you're a user that's responsible for thousands of tanks, this does save you some time and allows you to just focus on all of those tanks that are in that current alarm status. Okay, and so one other thing when you do apply a tank view filter, so we'll go ahead and apply that second one that I had created here. This will just take a moment. Fortunately, I have a lot of users on my internet, as a lot of us do, so I apologize for the lengthy buffering here. Okay. All right, so that selection has been made here, and again, these can always be modified. You can change whether you want to create another tank view profile with a different name, modify an existing one, change a regular TVP or tank view profile into a universal tank view profile. And if you're an admin, you can assign that tank view profile to different organizations. So I think that, one thing that the last thing that I did want to show was the map view. So based on the filter criteria that you set, when you click on the map view, this map view will show the tanks on this map based on that filter criteria. So it'll filter out any other tanks that don't meet your filter criteria. And then you can always click in and out by clicking the same button that you click to open up that window. So same thing applies to the TVP setup button, the options, and the filters button. So, all right, so I think that concludes the training on TVP. I think that we're ready to open it up for questions. Sarah, can you go ahead and open up the microphones here?
Well, I'm not going to open them all up. What I'll do is if anyone has a question other than the ones that were answered, then please raise your hand, or just you can raise your hand on the panel, and then we'll unmute the participant.
Sounds good.
And Allison did answer 2 questions on the questions box. Thank you, Allison. Does anyone have any questions for us on the content from today's session? I don't see any hands raised. Oh, I see one. Elaine, I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah. I was having issues with my sound, so I missed the first little bit. Will I be able to rewatch this from the beginning?
Yes, we will be putting this on our YouTube channel. So we'll be, these are recorded and they'll be available for playback on our SkyBitz YouTube channel. So if you haven't already check that channel out, I encourage you to do so.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Elaine.
Any other questions?
I don't see any other hands raised. All right. Go ahead, Fabian. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone. So if there are no more questions, then we do value your feedback, and we'd appreciate if you take a moment following this webinar to fill out a survey. It only takes about 2 minutes. This valuable information helps our team ensure that we're providing content that's important to you in running your business. Thank you for attending our session today. These sessions are about you, our partners, and helping you leverage the powerful tools provided. If you have any recommendations for ideas for future session content, please let us know, and we'll be happy to put that together. And as a final reminder, please do go to the SkyBitz YouTube page and subscribe. And next week, we'll be covering session 4, which will be setting up a new tank and getting set up for success. That'll include searching for new tanks, tank setup, quick review of hardware, tank parameter entries, setting up a call schedule, and tank calibration and offsets. Thank you again, and see you all next week.